Now, I can't say this is too shocking, but it is surprising to see that Joe Biden's campaign manager is saying the polls are wrong. They do not have double-digit leads. The polls are inflated, and they're telling supporters you need to get out. The fake polls have backfired on the Democrats. Surprise, surprise. They've been going around saying we're going to win. You know, Joe Biden's up 16 points nationally, and he's beating Trump 11 points in Michigan, and he's up 10 points in Pennsylvania. Then early voting data came in. And as of today, Trump is winning, or we assume based on how many Republicans voted versus Democrats, that Trump is winning in Michigan in early voting, which should not be happening at all. Check out the main channel segment, my main channel segment over at youtube.com/Timcast. I did earlier. But now we've got a bigger bit of information, or I should say more important information, in that the Democrats are basically just admitting it. The polls are wrong. You better get out and vote. That's what they're saying. Check it out. Joe's campaign manager says poll numbers favoring the Democrat are inflated and warns supporters not to grow complacent because we are not ahead by double digits. Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden's campaign manager has warned the polls are inflated. Jen O'Malley Dillon issued the warning in an online campaign event on Friday, saying, please take into account the fact that we are not ahead by double digits, according to New York Times reporter Shane Goldmacher. Those are inflated national public polling numbers, Dillon added during the live streamed grassroots summit, video of which the campaign did not leave online. National polls released this week by NPR, PBS, NewsHour, Marist, and NBC News, Wall Street Journal, show Biden leading President Donald Trump by 11%. Let me stop right there. They said he was leading nationally by 11%. I'm sorry. They said he was leading Michigan by 11%. If Trump is now winning in early voting in Michigan and Republican voters are expected to vote in massive waves in person, the Democrats are on track to lose. What does that mean nationally about the rest of the polls from the same groups? If their polling was skewed that far, could it not be that Trump is actually winning by slight margins? Shane Goldmacher tweeted. Biden, so we understand. I'm not going to say it a million times. During the event, Dillon predicted that Biden will win Arizona in the November 3rd election, even though the state has not voted for a Democrat since Bill Clinton won in 1996. I know we're going to win Arizona, Dillon said. Dillon predicted that the Biden campaign will raise another $234 million through the election, adding to a war chest that is already larger than Trump's. It's coming from Wall Street, by the way. Trump's campaign, along with the Republican National Committee and associated groups, raised $247.8 million in September, well short of the $383 million raised by Biden and the Democratic National Committee in the same period. Trump campaign communications director Tim Murtaugh tweeted that the Trump effort had $251.4 million on hand at the end of September, compared with $432 for Biden. The president's campaign was betting on a well-stocked bank account to blanket airwaves and online with Trump ads. But last week, he was outspent on advertising by Biden by more than $10 million. Doesn't matter. You know why? In my main segment, I showed this. Time magazine had a reporter travel across the country and found, guess what? People don't care about the headlines. I don't think the ads are what's driving it anymore. Donald Trump won in 2016 with a relatively low ad spend. He spent very little money. They say he got $5 billion in free advertisement from news outlets. All they're doing is showing Trump, Trump, Trump 24/7. And many people are probably getting their information from social media. Quote, President Trump hits final stretch with strength, resources, record, and huge ground game needed to spread message and secure re-election, Murtaugh tweeted. Biden's fundraising benefited from a boost in donor enthusiasm following the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. This week, Republican Senator Graham, a close Trump ally from South Carolina, expressed worries that Trump could lose the election. Y'all have a good chance of winning the House, Graham told Democratic colleagues during hearings for Amy Coney Barrett, Trump's nominee for the Supreme Court. Senate Republicans are also battling to keep their 53-47 majority in the election. Recent polling shows Democratic challenger Mark Kelly pulling far ahead of Republican incumbent Martha McSally in Arizona, one of 10 states where Republican incumbents are vulnerable to being unseated. You see, the big challenge right now for the Republicans is that they have more seats up for election than Democrats do, which just means there is a decent probability they could lose the Senate this time around. I'm not so sure. Honestly, I can't predict what's going to happen. I can't. November is going to come around. November 3rd is going to happen, and we'll see. But with Michigan's early numbers, and this could change, I think the polls were wrong. They're saying early votes are supposed to be Democrat. Republicans are winning. What does that say for Democrats? I think across the board, Republicans are going to surprise Democrats, and they're now admitting, take this one to the bank. Joe Biden's campaign manager is admitting the polls are wrong and are inflated. Republicans better get out to vote. Otherwise, I'll tell you what's going to happen. Donald Trump will leave the country. That's right. Trump jokes at packed Georgia rally that he will leave the country if he doesn't win the election because he won't feel so good losing to the worst candidate in the history of politics. I got to be honest. It's kind of why I think Donald Trump's going to win, because I can't imagine a scenario where people vote for a Joe Biden. I mean, come on, dude. Sleepy, creepy Joe just doesn't seem to make sense. Now, Trump is joking, but I love the people on Twitter saying Trump was really going to leave the country because he doesn't want to go to prison. If Trump loses, he's going to get locked up. I love this. What they're saying is that if Trump loses, he'll resign. He'll issue a pardon for Pence. He'll resign a day before he's on January 19th, before Biden comes in. And then Pence will issue Trump a pardon. And that way they're both free to go. Because these people who think this are insane and don't seem to remember at all what happened with George W. Bush, who, got us into these wars, nothing happens to these people. They're not going to go to jail. Like Hillary Clinton, when Trump was, saying lock her up and all that stuff, and the people were chanting that. Come on, dude. Hillary Clinton's never going to jail. But let's see what Mr. Trump was joking about. Trump has vowed to leave the country if he doesn't win. The president joked to the packed crowd at his Georgia rally Friday night that he may resort to drastic action if the American people don't vote for him for a second term. His comments come as musicians Bruce Springsteen and Tommy Lee swore to do the opposite and leave America if Trump is reelected. No, they won't. What? Let me ask you, why does this happen every single election? If George W. Bush is elected, I'm leaving this country. No, you're not. Shut up. If George W. Bush is reelected, if John McCain is elected, y'all never leave. Please do it. They never do, though. They always talk about how they want to leave because they don't want to live here, under Trump or whatever. I saw a post on Facebook and it said something like, if you support Donald Trump and what he has done to this country, then you need to unfriend me right now. And I'm just like, what did he do? What are you talking about? That's not specific. I have no idea what you're talking about. Unfriend you? I can only assume, but they didn't actually tell me anything. COVID? Trump didn't do COVID. Economy? Trump didn't do COVID. So what did he do? Honestly, I have no ideas. I have no idea. They seem to think that 47 years of Joe Biden and the Democratic establishment and Trump just snapped his fingers and made this brand new world. It's like Trump gets elected and he has a magic wand and he taps the wall and then magic colors come and just change everything about the country. No. If you're concerned about policies, prisons, if you're concerned about fossil fuels, carbon, it was Joe Biden. That's why it's ridiculous to me that people are like, I'm going to leave here if Trump gets reelected. I wonder how many people would actually put money down and say, oh, you are? Let me pay your ticket so you can leave, not vote in the next elections. Now, I guess one thing that we need to talk about is what comes after 2020, 2022 midterms and 2024. Right now, we're seeing the polling is not actually that good for Joe Biden. And if we're in margin of error territory, then it's possible that Trump is actually winning. We saw one poll from the Sunday Express Democracy Institute. So this is a UK paper saying Trump is up 1 point. I think that actually makes sense because they don't have any skin in the game. I mean, maybe, but not really. They're British, right? That makes sense. The skewed polling is benefiting Joe Biden because people often will just vote for who they think is going to win. They want to fit in. I don't think they're fitting in, though. So there's two things I want to mention. If Trump loses, then I think you might see a horrific rebound in 2022 and 24. Because what will happen is Joe Biden will pander to the far left. The far left will keep riding. And it will be a rubber band like no rubber band you have ever seen. If Trump wins, however, I think the Republicans will solidify in the midterms and just take more and more power. Now, look, I don't know. I was wrong about Republicans winning in the midterms, but it was only because of mail-in voting. My predictions were actually spot on for about a week. And then a week later, I'm like, oh, look at this. The mail-in votes came in and everything flipped. And a lot of people think that was fraudulent. I'm not saying it's fraudulent. I'm just saying a lot of people are saying, isn't that convenient? Well, they vote by mail, I guess. Now, here's what I don't understand. Why do Democrats vote by mail more than Republicans in any other midterm? That seems to make no sense. Why is it that now, when they're saying, vote by mail, the Democrats are encouraged to do so? So now they're pulling ahead in early voting. I don't understand. That's just me. Maybe I should read up on it, huh? Why it is that during the midterms, mail-in voting swung that much. People are concerned about fraud, and now the cat's out of the bag. So whatever ends up happening in 2022, people aren't going to trust mail-in ballots. I guess we'll see. Trump won't be here. I think it's highly likely he is. And they've mentioned that if Trump loses now, he'll run again in 2024. And I really do not believe that. He'll be way too old. He's going to be like, But to be fair, Donald Trump is spry. So we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. But I want you to take this one to the bank, okay? The polls are wrong, and they admitted it. That's it. Game on, baby. I got a couple more segments in a few minutes. Stick around, and I'll see you all shortly.